2020. Do I have a motion to suspend the rules? Got a motion by George Lawrence and seconded by Nathan Barrett. All in favor? Motion carries unanimously. Carrie, will you read the changes to the agenda?
To the policy agenda, we're substituting 4B, ordinance to amend Chapter 18 for cemeteries. Remove 4D, subject to call resolution denying a zoning map amendment for 133 Briarfield Avenue. And to the consent agenda, add 5U, resolution requesting assistance from Harrison County Board of Supervisors to repair John Henry Beck Park.
Got a motion to move the agenda as amended by
Second.
George Lawrence, seconded by Paul Tisdale. Any discussion? All in favor? Motion carries unanimously. This will bring us to the agenda order and the presentation agenda. Mr. Mayor, your report.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. We do have a couple of reports and a couple of proclamations, and I invite anyone from the Gulf Coast Center for Women for Nonviolence to come up and let me read this proclamation on this great day, this great month. Thank you. Whereas this proclamation, whereas domestic violence is a public health crisis that can affect anyone, men, women, all ages, orientations, ethnic and religious backgrounds, and people of all socioeconomic and educational levels. Whereas the Mississippi Gulf Coast Women's Center for Nonviolence provided emergency shelter and support services for over 2,200 victims of violence and received over 15,000 calls to its crisis hotline in 2019. Reflecting the severity of the problem within the coastal counties of Mississippi. Whereas advocates, professionals, volunteers, and community members will devote the month of October to raising public awareness of the crisis of domestic violence, its causes, effects, interventions, and prevention. Now, therefore, I, Andrew Fofo Gillich, Mayor of Biloxi, do hereby proclaim the month of October 2020 as Domestic Violence Awareness Month. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
If you care to say something.
Sure. Thank you. I just wanted to take the opportunity to come out. You know, we do this every year to bring awareness to the ongoing problem of domestic violence, and we count it, you know, I personally count it as an honor to be able to come to you every year and to thank you for your community support. Just like with every program, this has been a very special year. It's been a very challenging year. Our shelters have been able to stay open during the entire pandemic. We did not discontinue any of our services or close our shelters because we know that during times like this of stress or economic stress, we have spikes in domestic violence, and people need us more right now than probably ever. And so we've been able to keep that open, and the only reason that we're able to do that is because of the support that we get from the community. And we want to thank you and encourage everybody to just speak out and to continue raising awareness. Yeah.
Take a little photo op, and we thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you. We'll get to the right year.
No problem. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Next, Leslie and Don, would you please come up here for this very special. It really is a special proclamation. This young man, I see him almost every day, and we're real appreciative of his spirit and strength. Whereas Donald R. Johnson Jr. will be honored on October 21, 2020, by friends and relatives in celebration of his 50th birthday. And whereas Donald will also be honored by the Mississippi Center for Autism and Related Developmental Disabilities. And whereas Donald, who has Asperger's syndrome, is a founding honorary member of the Mississippi Center for Autism and serves as spokesman, sharing his experience in living with autism. He says he has it, but it doesn't have him. So, Donald serves as a volunteer with Biloxi XL by 5 and has served as a volunteer for Biloxi Regional Center, Medical Center, and later Merit Health Biloxi. Now, therefore, I, Andrew Fofo Gillich, Mayor of the City of Biloxi, do hereby extend my sincere congratulations and best wishes to Donald and hereby proclaim the 21st day of October 2020 as Donald R. Johnson Jr. Day. Okay. Very good. Thank you. Happy birthday. Congratulations. Yes, congratulations. Thank you. Well, good deal.
I want to say one thing. Can I say one thing?
You'll say more than one thing. Say,
Don, I want everyone to know, I had the opportunity to have Donald as one of my students. I had you in the 8th grade, and he was an office assistant for me. And he has brought a lot of happiness and joy to me, and I'm so very proud of you. And I got you a happy birthday treat. You're more than welcome. All right. Wait, can I have my picture made with you? I promise I'll wear my mask.
You're done. You're done. You got to give
Be quiet.
birthday.
Oh, okay.
very good. Congratulations. Happy birthday to you. Thank you. You take that's yours.
That's his first birthday present.
All right. Well, that's awesome. Awesome.
That's yours?
No, your bread, oh, that's yours. Yeah, that's yours. That's your bag, yes.
Thank you, Don.
Yes, that's yours.
All right, thank you. We have one more report. I'd like to ask Ross Krim from EBM Group has a Blake to come give you an update at this point in time. Ross? Or you can stand, whatever you feel comfortable with.
Okay, I'm Ross Krim. We're building the Blake of Biloxi. Hoping to finish up right at the end of December and open up in January. We got a third of it's memory care. 2/3 of it is assisted living. 118 rooms, movie theater, 4 dining rooms, salon.
Full 9 yards.
Plenty of activity rooms, yes, sir.
Well, it's certainly a great facility. We're excited. I'm sure you almost have a waiting list at this point in time. So we do thank you for that. And if you council has any questions, but if you haven't seen it, as you drive by Pops Ferry, I mean it's a tremendous facility, and we're thankful that it's here.
Great.
Anybody has-
Glad to be.
I got a couple of questions. So, Ross, thanks for coming today. Give the update on the Blake. A lot of people have been waiting for it to open. So your opening date is what again?
January.
January, just sometime in January?
The 1st of January, yes, sir.
Okay.
December, we're pretty much going to be just sanitizing.
Awesome. And do you know what the occupancy is going to be, or?
118 units, I think.
It's 118 units, but I think we're licensed for 320 people.
Okay. All right. And people are standing in line waiting, or?
No, sir.
Not yet? Okay. All right. Well,
We'll have between 80 to 100 staff.
wow.
Yes.
Okay. Awesome. Well, we can't wait to get it open and see you again at that ribbon cutting soon.
Yes, sir.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ross. Appreciate it. And let me add before I close that we've been through cruising and a couple of scares and COVID again, and everybody's hopefully aware of everything, and we're thankful that we are here today. And in the shape we're in, we faded, as far as fiscal year, some significant challenges, and I think we're on the right track if we can just keep these unknown things from becoming reality overnight. So, be aware where we are, in mirror on the wall. No telling what'll happen tomorrow. But we're thankful that here we are today, and we're able to carry on with business. And that concludes my report, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We'll begin with the council report. Councilman Tisdale.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. A couple of comments. A request from our last council meeting to provide a list of city properties that are rented or leased, and I know Mr. Leonard's not here today, and I know Attorney Abide is working on that, so he'll be getting that to me shortly, and I'm happy to share it with the rest of the council members. When planning begins or is underway for the wellness tour, this is to get out to our employees and see if we can look at getting them to participate. in a wellness program to lower our premiums, hopefully at some point. If somebody will let me know, I'd like to sit in on some of those. Also, it's rattling around in my head that I heard Tree Mitigation Bank mentioned possibly for developers.
Right.
And I know Mr. Creel would know what I'm speaking about, and I just been wondering, I don't know if we're moving forward, but I hope we are, because sometimes these developers are required to mitigate, provide trees and all that. So even if it's just a fund that they would pay into in order for the city to purchase trees to be placed and watered appropriately. So I just wanted to let that rattle around in some heads and hopefully see some traction on that. The last thing is, I had a Ward 5 council meeting, not last night, but a week ago on October 12th. Had about 25 people show up. I appreciate the city employees that were there, department heads, and Mr. Leonard to answer questions and present on certain topics. I'd also like to thank Vincent Creel with Public Affairs for digitally recording that meeting. And if there are those folks who want to see that meeting, you can go to the city's website to see that, or my website to see that, or my website to see a written summary of that. That concludes my comments. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilman
President,
Tisdale.
Mayor, I forgot about something, but when you mentioned trees, I wanted to give a attaboy to our group, especially Eric Nolan, in solving a problem we've had with the tree, the oak tree that was in the middle of Azalea, right, and Irish Hill. Since we finished that up, I want to give them a congratulations on that. We saved that tree, and I'll go back and hug that tree again, as well as the one on the east side of Father Ryan. And there was a lot of, I think you and I have seen it together, right in the middle, about between Caldwell and that road.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's
Will this be the last time those trees are ever mentioned, or?
I hope so, man. But they did a good job, a
No,
great job in doing
that is good news, and those were live oak trees, as I recall. So, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you,
President.
Mr. President.
Councilwoman Newman. Councilman Lawrence.
I have a couple of things. Sherry Bell, can you follow up on what we're doing with the Circle Park? Yeah. We're going to put some dirt and level this ground out, or we have to put that in and ask for that request from the city?
I'll get back with engineering on that.
Because I mean, that park was used a lot.
I agree.
And, I mean, we're getting ready to do the tennis court. We're going to do the pickleball. So Robert had something to do on Saturdays. So we turned that into a pickleball and tennis ball, so we'll be doing both of them.
Funny guy, huh?
Another thing, Sheriff Bell, you'd like to give a little report on Halloween in the city? This is this Saturday.
On Howard,
On Howard.
Halloween on Howard. Right now we have 25 vendors. Sherry.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Get your mics, everybody on TV can hear you.
You got it? This is on.
Anyway, on the 24th, we're having Halloween on Howard drive-through. They'll start on Porter and Howard and work their way down, all the way down to Main Street. And there'll be various businesses or individuals or organizations that'll be out. So, and that starts at 5 o'clock and will end at 6:30.
Thank you. That's another good thing for downtown, Howard Avenue. We cut a ribbon last Thursday for another business that opened up on Howard Avenue. So those it's coming back. It's getting there. Just got to do it one step at a time. Tomorrow, you got to remember that y'all can all get your flu shot. When y'all getting sick, you've got to go 2 flu shots, you. 2. 'Cause you already been sick, you. So make sure you get your flu shot, you. The mayor, the fishing bridge on the point, is this finished with the lighting?
I think so.
And what else they supposed to be doing to it?
That's installed, and everything is installed on that. It's pretty bright, and there's been a lot of fishing going on, too.
Yeah, the lighting is done. The lighting work is done. We're adding, I got one from back here. We're adding in like a surge protection system. We're gonna do a change order to add that in. You'll probably see it next agenda, but the initial work, fixing all the lights, replacing all the new fixtures, that's complete.
And that's with LED.
That's LED, yes, sir.
Are you going to do the same thing to the Forest Avenue pier?
We're thinking about
Oh,
it.
that's
Thinking
not in
about
there.
it.
Thinking about
Say
it.
again?
We're thinking about it. The mayor said he's considering it.
Because that's another pier that they use a lot too.
Yeah, well, to tie in with the Bayview walkway and all that.
Yeah, once we do a nice walkway, you gotta have a nice pier there.
That's right. And that cypress tree, that red cypress tree is probably in the water, right next to that pier. It's probably the most beautiful cypress tree we have in Biloxi. Just to add that.
And the last
yeah,
thing we had was, Friday. It's not hard to make people happy in the city of Biloxi.
Yeah.
Bishop Johnson, we made a walkway for him by Lewis Street, whatever the street was,
Roadmurray.
Webb Lane, whatever.
Welch.
Right.
Welch.
And with Billy Ray, the Public Works got the sign put up. It was awesome. Bishop Johnson, Jason, L is Lawrence, Johnson walkway. But he was good. Both folk came, read a little proclamation. Felix was there every night, but the man was really excited. I said, anybody put 31 years in the church, you need to do anything you can to help him. The guy done a great job down there. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Lawrence. Councilman Glavin?
Thank you. I got a few things. Speaking of trees, there's a large dead pine tree on Brazier Road in front of Savannah Estates. If I could have somebody check that out, Public Works, if they could check that out, that'd be great. Last Friday, we had Fight for the Pink Night here on the steps of City Hall, simultaneously with the City of Gulfport, City of Ocean Springs, and others. And it was quite a night. People rode by honking their horns, supporting it, and we lined the bags with these illuminated bags of with names of loved ones that either had passed away or that are continuing to fight or have won their battle with breast cancer. And it's been quite a month. We do have a donation of some pink lights that are being shipped out. We should receive those tomorrow to be able to light the lighthouse, Mayor. So we look forward to seeing that beautiful, big 65-foot lighthouse just illuminated in pink soon, and that'll send a wonderful message. And with that, I'd like to segue and ask Director Bell to give a report of an upcoming pickleball event that's also supporting breast cancer and where we stand with that event.
Each year, we usually do the guns and hoses. This year, because of COVID, we chose not to, but then I think Kenny approached Tom and Dion, who are my pickleball ambassadors, about having a breast cancer awareness pickleball tournament. So it's actually called Paddle for the Pink, something like that, tournament. It's this Saturday. There's already 94 registrants in it, so they're playing for just a trophy. All the monies that they raise go to benefit Kenny Glavin's Real Men Wear Pink and Kevin Felsher Real Men Wear Pink. And it starts at 8 o'clock Saturday at the pickleball courts on Potts Ferry.
Thank you, Director. And I just want to add, listen, my dad used to coach Little League baseball, and he was an assistant coach, and they were having a practice game one night, and he was getting all excited, and the head coach said, "Herbie, calm down, it's only a practice game." And he said, "Look, Noel O'Quinn was the head coach. If we were playing for a bucket of spit," and he didn't say spit, he said, "I'd want to win that bucket of spit." So I told Kevin Felsher that same thing the other night. Look, I want to win that trophy. So, it's for a great cause, and we got a lot of people that have signed up for that thing, and the support has been just incredibly amazing. I got one more thing. I was speaking with Miss Jessica Schoenig, that's in the back here, and I'd like to yield the remainder of my time to allow her to talk about some support for the disabled community. Jessica, if you'd come up, please. Or you can speak from there if that's more convenient.
Hi, yes, as you all see, I have a disabled daughter, and a part of the disabled community excludes her because she needs an adult changing table. That means she can't go to restaurants, she can't go anywhere. And as she gets older, she is going to continue being trapped at home like this pandemic is for all of you, and you guys are crazy. It's driving you crazy. But in the future, that's going to be her life because there's a lack of a restroom available in anywhere for her, and that's adult changing tables. Children's hospitals don't have them. Restaurants, restrooms at the park, nothing has them, not even a movie theater. I've tried bringing this attention. I've written stories to WLOX, the Sun Herald. I've talked to many people, and all I get is there's not a code written for it, so we're not going to do it. So to better the lives of the disabled and to bring awareness to it, I'm asking that you guys please say yes to making adult changing tables a requirement to better and be inclusive for all disabled.
Amen.
And like we have a very huge veteran community from military. What about the ones that have served overseas, come back wounded, and they can't leave their house because of a lack of a restroom for them? My daughter has hers because of hospital issues. There's people born with genetic diseases. There's car wrecks because we have all the casinos, lots of drinking, lots of drunk drivers. So a 15-year-old in their car gets hit by a drunk driver should not be limited to only their house because there's no restroom available to them. So with our larger disabled community, we need this. It's bad when the hospitals take care of our disabled and they don't even have restrooms for them. The first place in the United States that ever had an adult changing table was an airport. There's other families working in other states to try and get this noticed. I want to make a change here in Biloxi on the coast. Eventually, if we get enough notice, I want to take it up to the ADA and have them make an amendment for it. But she shouldn't be excluded because of a lack of a restroom. Nobody should. They fought for that for the handicap stalls. Now I'm fighting for adult changing tables for her. That's all.
Thank you, Jessica. That concludes my report.
Councilman Guines?
Amen. First, I want to thank Director Bell for having a Halloween drive-through. The Southside Riders got on us a little bit about that, so now we've exchanged the phone numbers, make sure that they are included in everything. I'd like to get a hold of Walt. Walt, is he in the room? Walt, yeah. Appreciate that Division Street. They got it all good and paved out. Do you have a date on the striping?
You have to wait at least 10 to 14 days after you put down fresh asphalt before you put down any permanent striping. We're in discussions now with Oscar Renda to see if they will do that work through their subcontractor. And if they do, great. If they don't, then me and the administration will go to our other plan.
Okay, thank you. And I've rode around and I saw Roy Street. They're putting down the sidewalks on Roy Street and different things like that. So I appreciate that.
Yes,
on
sir.
Roy Street. So, and they're doing the north side, the south side to be mixed, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Christie.
Councilman, let me jump into you. I've inspected a couple of spots that we, had to do some warranty work on Division Street and Law Court and some of those other places. So we're going to get that on the radar to complete some of the warranty work that they had to tear some of that spot up, down towards Brown and a couple other ones. So
Yeah,
we're going to get
Brown.
that done at the same time too.
Yeah, Brown Street is one that has to be done. Christie, Keller Street fencing, replace that fencing.
Yes, I've started to look into it. I don't have an answer for you yet. We're trying to figure out what contractor was there doing that work. So hopefully within the next week, I'll get you an answer. We don't know if it was one of our private utility contractors.
Gotcha.
So we're trying to just kind of do some research and figure out, but I'll get you an answer before next week.
Thank you. You're on top of it. And Peter, has Peter left?
Peter's here.
question?
All right. Just wanted to follow up on the Lee Street project of sending a letter out to the contractors, if we got that just about formulated.
Yeah, for their laydown yard, it's through the end of the contract for laydown materials only, so we are preparing that letter to remind them of what they say the date of the contract is, and then to get them on the progress to start returning that property to normal.
Okay, great. Thank you. Yes. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Councilman Guines. Councilman Barrett?
I just have two things. Number one, I want to get a ward meeting scheduled for November on one of our off nights. So if y'all can, the department heads can look at your calendars and see what's available.
Councilman Barrett, would you use your mic?
Two things. I want to have a ward meeting in November if possible, so if we can look at our calendars and see what's available. And we can use the community center now, right? Okay.
Yes, sir.
And then the second thing is, I know that we're a little late in the game, but the Christmas parade, we usually do the second Saturday of December. Is that something that we can still do, or is that something that we're going to try to avoid this year?
Well, we would look at it.
Okay, just one way or the other. I have a lot of people reaching out to me that have participated in the past, so we need to make a call one way or the other as soon as possible, so that if we are going to do it, we can start planning. If not, let everyone know.
Well, there's a lot of things, such as Mardi Gras and some of these other, events that we have to look forward to. That's, of course, that's a short fuse as far as the parade, but there's a lot of things that we need to come to a decision based on numbers and based on data. So we'll be doing that. I know by the end of this month, October, but we'll have some serious calls to make, and we'll keep everyone informed and why we're going one way or the other.
Yeah, if we can do it by the end of the month, that should work. That'll give us 6 weeks to plan it. So, all right, that's all I have.
Thank you, Councilman Barrett. I just have a few things. Jessica, I want to commend you. I know it's tough to come into a room with unfamiliar faces and talk from the heart, so I commend you for your words, and thank you for coming today. Ms. Hunt, thank you for the bread. Not what I was expecting when people told me I was going to be offered a lot of dough in this job, but I'll take the bread nonetheless. Sherry, the Pops Ferry Park, what do we need to do to improve that surface? It's basically a dirt field. I know with continuous tournaments and leagues and play on that field, it's tough, but do we need to shut it down for a couple weeks to allow seeds to sprout? How can we correct that?
It needs to be shut down and top dressed, but the thing is keeping the people off of it. We've done it in the past, and they were right back climbing the fence and getting on it. So, but it can be done. It can be done in-house and with maybe the county's assistance, but top dressing, crowning it, and seeding.
Okay, I'm gonna, if you would, send me an email with what we need to do, and I'll contact Ms. Rocco, who is the Board of Supervisors supervisor for my district, for our district.
Okay.
And I will ask for her assistance for those things.
But the main thing is keeping them off the fields.
And that's something maybe we can coordinate with the Public Safety Department or some other areas to try to effectuate. Mr. Mayor, I don't know who I would address regarding the signage and the issues on the Pops Ferry Speedway right in front of the Margaret Sherry Library. I know we talked, I think I spoke with Chief Miller, and he mentioned that we were going to try to do some signage, and we're going to do some drastic cutting back of the limbs and the foliage of those trees. Do we have a prospective time of when we might get some signage out there? And
Leonard was talking about, hiring the trimming of those.
Give me a little more mic.
Oh, I'm sorry. Mike Leonard was addressing at least the trimming of that tree, and at the same time, we'd put those notes of speeding around those corners and those curves. I can't give you a solid answer, but when Mike gets back the next day or so, we'll get a handle on that for you and keep you informed.
Okay, thank you. While I've got your attention, could we send something out in the B-mail just to remind candidates for races, current and prospective, that the easements are not appropriate locations for signage?
Yeah, I think Jerry knows. We've got a plan on that. Yeah.
I mean, there's nobody likes campaign signs more than I do. We've got to find the right places to put them. Is Labata, Chrissy Labata in attendance?
Yep.
Yes, sir.
Ms. Labata, I'm sure you're going to, I'm going to ask you about an update on the sidewalk project for Sunkist.
Yes, we've talked to our concrete contractor. We're on his schedule, but it's going to be closer to the end of November. He's been backed up because of all these storms that have come in, and all he does is basically flat work concrete. So he's also very busy with all the house building that's going on. So his schedule's gotten really overwhelmed. These couple storms have really kind of knocked his schedule off, but we are on his schedule right now. He's given us a time frame of the end of November, but I will keep you posted as we progress along. Also, just to backtrack a little bit, we are working on getting prices on those delineators on Potts Ferry Road like you asked for.
The guide into North Country Club?
Right.
Great, that was my next question. I don't want that to fall through the cracks.
Yeah.
And I don't mean sidewalk cracks. I mean proverbial cracks.
Yeah.
I think that's all I have. Oh, Piers at the Causeway.
Actually, we talked to the mayor about that this Monday at directors meeting. We're getting a bid package together to cover all of the repair damages that need to be done. Basically, it's going to be like our repair, replace, and sidewalk and asphalt. It's going to be just
Unit prices,
a
so
unit
it-
price
and a
per
cou-
contractor.
Right, and it may be a couple of them, because if they get overloaded one schedule, if we have an event, maybe 5 or 6 things, we don't want to, attack it in sequence, we may put as many as we can, based on the unit bids and types of work they'll do.
And we've already got a spec and everything put together for that. I actually have talked to Larry Sablich about it yesterday. We're both reviewing it one more time to make sure it's good to go, and we hope to get that advertised within like the next week or two, really.
Yeah, my goal by the end of the, end of the year, certainly, that everything is back in first-class shape, because hopefully hurricane season will be over by the end of the year, and a number of other things will be over by the end of the year. So,
Right.
We'll be ready for 21, and not mention 20.
Great, thank you. That's all I have, except for a partner for the pickleball tournament. So if anybody's very good at that, join and partner with me. This will,
George said you can get him some drugs in order to play.
This will bring us to our public agenda, citizen comments. We have 45 minutes total, 3 minutes per person. When you come to the table, please state your name and your address and sign in for me. If there's anybody on the right-hand side of the room or my left-hand side of the room that would care to come up and speak, please do so now.
Is this yours?
Good evening again. My name is Frederick McDonald. Basically, I got just very few things. I just noticed that when I'm coming east on Eisenhower, passing White Avenue going east, it's paved beautifully, and when I get to Porter Avenue, it's amazing. I love it. But when I come from east of Calvert Street, going on Division, I was parked and noticing the buses was coming, dropping the kids off. There's no lighting from Raynard Street on Lemieux Street and Division. And I saw a car come, and a child was about to cross, and the child had to jump back. So that's one of my concerns. Will lighting get there again on Raynard Street, Lemieux Street, and Division? And it should be a crosswalk for the children, because they are very vital to our community, right? And also, this was basically my number one concerns is, will there be beautification from, like, Porter Avenue it look amazing, but will there be lighting fixtures put back up in them areas, and will it be paved where you see the lines in the street as well, so the whole city can look like it's beautified? And it's like, and then south of the tracks, one night I was there, I stood on the corner of Railroad Street and Main. If you look south of Main, it's very lit up. But if you look going north of Main, it's very dark. It need more lighting there as well in each one of them areas, And so there was one of my only concerns is about the lightings and the beautification of Division and all the street east of Calvert Street all the way down to the point where there be some type of things done there. Thank you so much.
Mr. McDonald, this is not a question and answer, so I don't want to confuse you. I just need clarification.
Okay, yeah.
When you say lighting, do you mean street lights?
Street lights, yes,
Okay,
sir.
thank you.
Sorry about that, appreciate it.
If there's anybody else on the left-hand side of the room, or the right-hand side of the room, my left-hand side, that would care to speak, please come forward now. If you would, please state your name and your address and sign in for me.
Okay, my name is Renee Wynn.
Ms. Renee, I didn't catch your last name.
W-I-N-N, as in Winn-Dixie.
Thank you.
All right. My question is about food trucks. Vincent Creel. My sister placed a phone call to him. She's the lead health inspector for the Gulf Coast. Her name is LaTanya Wynn. And I'm interested in it because I'm that Creole vegan. And I need to know, is there specific locations where food trucks can sit? The policies, the in compliance, like everything about it. Are we able to do that in the city of Biloxi? I have a lot of questions.
Okay, well, Mr. Creel's department is the one that would handle that. I don't know if Mr. Creel would take a moment to address that. And I know on private property, that's something that's different. Public property has a whole bunch of rules and regulations, but I would contact community development. They're the ones that have the answers for you.
Is there any laws or any rules about the pass?
I don't know.
There's some items on the agenda today regarding food trucks and the plan to allow them where they should be. It hadn't been in the past, but today, what item is on the agenda today? Kind of first item on the agenda. Second reading, item C.
Hey, Tisdale. Oh. That's my buddy. And Miss Susan Hunt used to be my principal. Because you and I do business together, I know who you are. But your brother said he looks the best. So you know, that joke, you know that joke? You know that joke. Yeah.
First reading of the ordinance on the agenda today. Second reading.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you, Ms. Wynn. Is there anybody else on the right-hand side of the room that would care to speak? If so, now's the time to come forward. Anybody on the left-hand side of the room, my right-hand side that would care to speak, please come forward, state your name and address for the record, and sign in for me.
My name is Jane Chambra. I'm the manager of the Local History and Genealogy Department at the Biloxi Library. We are part of the Harrison County Library System. So I'm here today to remind you that we have the upcoming cemetery tour. So things are different. COVID's made a mess out of everything, but we're still going to be able to see the annual tour in a different way. So tonight on BTV, they're going to air the sneak peek of the cemetery tour. And what it's going to be is we'll introduce what's coming up, and Mr. Nick Black and I, Nick Black is actually a tombstone restorer. He and I are going to talk about the stone in the cemetery, which is always claimed to be the oldest stone. And it is the oldest stone. It's not the oldest burial. But when we look at the stone, we think instead of it being the guy dying in 1811, he really died in 1841 because of all the erosion and things with storms and so forth. So we're going to talk, he's going to talk about the stone itself, and I'll talk about if you decide that Mr. Michel Betat really did die here in 1841, we can actually find the rest of his life all the way until his wife died. They moved to New Orleans, and with our resources in the library, we're able to go to Ancestry and some other resources, and we're actually able to recreate his life based on a new date of death. So anyway, so that's what's coming on tonight on TV, BTV at 7 p.m. The cemetery tours are produced and organized each year by a group of people called Preserve Biloxi. And they include the City of Biloxi, Biloxi Main Street, Biloxi Bay Area Chamber, of course the Local History and Genealogy Department, the Biloxi Public School System, Dr. Stevens with the USM History Department, Charlene Deaton, and Sherry Munter. And so besides doing cemetery tours, we also do History Week and Preservation in May. But it's a really cool program. Every year we do this. And so basically next week, on the 27th, a week from today, we'll also be able to see this year's cemetery tour in a different way. So you can turn on to BTV, there's a schedule in the B newsletter, along with a little introduction about it as well. And so you can see it at home, and then you'll be able to see it on the city's YouTube channel as well. So last night, we were just kind of perusing over YouTube channels, and what did we see but last year's cemetery tour presented by Mayor Fofo? He gave the whole history of Biloxi in like 10 minutes, and that's really amazing. And that was, well, that's okay. You covered a lot of territory. I'm telling you, we couldn't have done it equally as well. So we also, so on YouTube now, you can do last year's. You can also do, you can see Dorothy Brown's story. Dorothy Brown was the person who managed the Broadwater Hotel Resort. And of course, Broadwater is the thing, the word of the week, right? So you're gonna hear her story as well, along with Claude Secura and also the Mr. Staling and Mr. Belandy, who were with the city of Biloxi
Your
years
time
ago.
is up.
So this year, I'm
That's an
sorry.
extension of the
Thank you,
mayor's
thank you.
report.
Okay, I just want to give you an idea of who's going to be the characters this year. We're going to have Nicholas Christian Ladner, who is everybody related to the Ladner family, Henry Agagard, Lita Anglada, who worked downtown. She's going to talk about her life. John Becknell, who's actually a civil engineer and an employee of the city with the old City Hall. Mr. Wilhelm Wallace, who was an immigrant businessman. Mr. Verdelie Swetman, who was with the court system here in Harrison County. Paul Taccone, who tells a whale of a tale. Lysant Broussard, who was a fisherman and a Louisiana native who came here. And also Ida Champeau and Teresa Ewing, who are seafood workers back in the day. So don't miss it. It's a great event, and get your PJs on, your beer, your pizza, whatever. 2 in the morning, you can go get coffee at Dixie's, and then just hang out on TV.
Thank you, Ms. Chamber, for coming. Is there anybody else? You would please come forward, state your name and your address for the record, and then sign in for me.
Hi, my name is James McClendon. I live at 623 Peyton Drive, Biloxi, and my concern is homeless. I got about 5 homeless people occupying a house next to mine. I called law enforcement last week, and they're still there. Is anything in my neighborhood, can I board up the house myself, or is a process I have to go through? I did inform the code people. So that's my concern.
What address is that?
609 Peyton Drive.
Is that where you live?
No, that's where the homeless people, that's the home that the homeless people are occupying.
Okay.
It was 2, now it's about 5.
Okay. Thank you for coming, and we'll discuss that with the appropriate people.
Okay. All right, appreciate it.
Is there anybody else on the right-hand side of the room, on the left-hand side of the room, my right-hand side of the room that would care to speak? Anybody in the back of the room? There being none, we will move to the policy agenda. Ordinance A, Carrie?
Ordinance amending Chapter 12 License and Business Regulations by adding mobile food vending to the Code of Ordinances. Lawrence and Tisdale.
Team Lawrence and Tisdale, I shouldn't even ask. Mr. Lawrence, discussion?
Yeah, Peter, are we doing a good thing here with the truck?
Well, that lady, Miss Renee Wynn, shows you why we're doing this. That there's been a lot of interest around the city, food trucks. They're sort of pop-up businesses, and they seem to be popping up. So it's an effort for us to do what a lot of other cities have done and sort of lay some ground rules of when and where these trucks can operate. At Cruising the Coast, we saw some over at several places. And then last Friday on the district, in the little new green space there, they have been developing a food truck type concept. These rules we've done, we looked at a lot of different cities, tried to take the best business approach from a lot of these other cities, tried to eliminate some of the overburdening restrictions. And we also met with Bobby Gillum at the district to get his input and get some, and going over that, and also with Jerry Creel. So I think it's a good step, and in the words of a wise councilman, it's a good thing.
Well, how many places are you going to have in action to start with? How many different areas?
We're just laying the framework of where, if someone wants to set up a food truck on certain days, the zoning districts, they could do it. There's a $250 permit to be allowed to operate as a food truck, and after that, that's good for 90 days, and after that, it could be renewed for $25. If you wanted to do just a special event, it's $50 for 2 days or $25 a day, which is what it is anyway. I think right now in the LDO, it talks about a food truck, they're allowed, but they need to keep moving around within the city, sort of like an ice cream truck. So we're modifying that in the LDO, and then while we're doing it, we just want to have some regulations. We want them to be safe. We want the health inspectors to be able to deal with them if needed. They need to provide insurance, just anything that a normal business would do.
Well, you have the one set up that you're going to do right there where Eddie Drugstore used to be, upstairs, downstairs. Do you have any other place on Howard Avenue, or just the only one?
We don't really have any with the city. That we know that area, they want to do a food truck business there, but this would allow, if other places want to do it, it would allow a mechanism whereby they could do it legally and hopefully safely and to bring traffic in.
This is going to be done strictly on city property, or can somebody do it on private property?
No, this is if you can have it on private property. You have to be permission from the private property owner.
And what type of zone that needs to be on private property?
Regional business, downtown, waterfront, community business, and neighborhood business. Right, not residential. Let me add as well, when I'm looking over this, we had paragraph XV11 talked about collecting a 1% sales tax. That was left over from another city, and we need to remove that out, hopefully by amendment.
Well, I'll move to amend the ordinance to strike section XVII.
I'll second it.
Very good.
I have a motion by Councilman Deming and a second by Councilman Tisdale. Is there any discussion on the amendment? There being none, I'll call for the question. All in favor of the amendment? Motion carries unanimously. Ordinance A is now amended. Ordinance A.
Well, actually, a question that Peter on that, are they going to collect sales tax or not?
Yes.
And what it'll be, 7% or?
Yes, sir. 7%.
Is this one of the things that we have to put in place and look at it as it goes along, critique it, make it a little better? I don't know, I think it's a good thing to get started, me. I think they're great. People have like the different events, you park 3 or 4 of them trucks. First of all, they got good food. Most of them do well, but I mean, it's great for people to walk around, pick it up, hamburgers, chips, whatever it might be. It's a good thing. It's just something we have to follow and make sure we do it the right way. So I'm all for it myself. Thank you.
Yeah, I think we saw like last Friday when they set up, a lot of folks from the hospital, the doctors and nurses came out and walked over, and there was a pretty good line. I mean,
Had a group from USM sat there and ate
yeah,
lunch there.
there's another group touring, looking at some computer technology things at USM. They came as well. But it's harder for a doctor or nurse to go and get a table at Mug Shots for an hour, but they can get out, get a little fresh air, get a taco or hamburger and head back in, so.
Well, they have the hot dog machines.
Those are always big, that. Thank you.
Councilman Tisdale, discussion?
Yeah, just one point I want to mention in reviewing this, which I think is a good idea. It says that all mobile food vehicles shall be issued a state tax number by the Mississippi Department of Revenue, designating them as a City of Biloxi business, because we've had some issues with that, and we all have questions about that, and I think we're meeting with Department of Revenue officials a week from now at 10:30 in the morning. So, short-term rentals, I think, but was one of the topics with tax collection, and then the sales tax that comes back to the city and how that is tracked. But, yeah, I echo Mr. Lawrence's sentiments that it's a good idea, and we're off to a good start. I'm sure at some point we may tweak it here and there, but as time goes on, but I think it's a good ordinance.
Let me add, Councilman Tisdale, that on the 27th, we have a special workshop where DOR is going to come in. We can ask a number of questions, that as well as other things, to talk about bed and breakfast and, short-term rental and all of that.
There's an echo in here.
Oh, I was sleeping, excuse me.
I'm done, thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Tisdale. Is there any other discussion on the council?
I'd like to ask a question. So when someone registers their food truck, it's $250. That $250 is good for anything they want to do within the city for 90 days, and they don't have to pay anything additional. Is that correct?
That's right.
After that, it's $25 for one day. So
No, they can renew it for another 90 days for $25.
Okay, so I misunderstood. So basically, if they do it for the full year, it's $325.
That's right.
And then the next year, it would be $250 again to start over, or is it just $25 for however long?
With $25 every 90 days, you could look at it as initial $250 to all the registration, and then $100 a year after that.
Okay.
25 a quarter.
All right, so that, and then the other question I have is you listed the zoning that they could do this in. We've had people set up food trucks like at the Eagle Point Triangle. So under this, would that not be allowed?
Yeah, I think right now, but I think you're right. I've heard of food truck, especially during COVID, just going to certain neighborhoods and just setting up and having like an event. And I think we could put something like that under a special event.
Yeah, I mean, you have a lot of larger subdivisions, especially out in Wool Market, outside of Toronto's, after 5 o'clock, there's nowhere to eat. And so it gives people the option for some of these food trucks to come out and them get something instead of having to drive into town and get something to eat. So I'd like to see, and we can do it later, but add something in that allows that aspect for them to go into neighborhoods and set up, and not just in Ward 7, but all of them. There's some very large subdivisions, and I think that it would be an asset not only to the businesses, but to the people that live in that area, that don't want to go out and fight the crowd at a restaurant or go to the grocery store and get something cooked that night. I think that would be a plus. So I'd like to see something added, with that aspect.
If we tweak that, I think that would be a good thing to put it under like a special event. A neighborhood might do a special event once or twice a year.
Yeah.
We're not really looking to have an ongoing food truck in a neighborhood
Yeah.
like every other day.
Yeah, okay. All right, that's all.
I'll call for the question. All in favor of ordinance A as amended? Motion carries unanimously. Would you read ordinance B, please?
Ordinance to amend and add Chapter 18 entitled Cemeteries of the Code of Ordinances.
Would I be too presumptuous to suggest it was Tisdale and Lawrence?
Lawrence Tisdale.
Councilman Lawrence?
That's me. That's been it, Peter. You have to explain this, exactly what you're doing. What are you changing there?
Well, what we're doing, and this is in conjunction with an item later on the agenda where we now have 54 new cemetery plots in the city of Biloxi that we're adding to the cemetery that didn't exist before. 54 10 by 10 lots, which is going to be the 13th edition. So in doing that, we went to look through what are the rules in the cemetery. You know, what do we have on our ordinances? What rules do we have in the cemetery? The only rule we have right now in our code of ordinances says, like, you can't shoot fireworks in the cemetery, and that's basically it. So what this is to basically take in some basic rules about how many bodies can be, or how many coffins can be in a spot, how many cremains, urns, just having some general rules about transferring deeds, the selling of deeds. In March, we had a council resolution to allow the engineering department and our department to look and see if we could find some additional spaces in the cemetery, because for years they said the cemetery is full, there's nothing available. And we've determined and found this empty stretch of land. We also want to come back in, and there's certain areas in the existing cemetery that are undeveloped, and we may be replatting some of those. We may get 50 lots total out of that, though. But as we're doing that, and now there's an interest in purchasing these lots, we wanted to have some mechanism of where they go to. I mean, they're going to buy them through the municipal clerk, and just to allow for just general rules. I mean, a lot of this we took from a lot of other coast cities who have cemeteries and have a lot of these exact same rules. We don't have rules at all, and essentially anything kind of, whatever you could do in the cemetery, you would just do. So.
I mean, you know, you're dealing with private property. All cemetery plots are private property, so I don't have rights you have anything to do with transferring anything. This is all private property. All you have to, you take care of the property, you take care of the walkways and things like that, but cemetery plots are private property. They have no height variance, they have nothing. So I don't know exactly what I said. I was trying to read through this. I don't know what you added, what you took away, what you did with anything.
Mm-hmm.
But you got to be careful there because you're dealing with private property. So I don't know, unless you can explain to others what you did, what you changed, what you added.
Well, for example, excavation. I mean, some cities, the city employees dig the graves. Okay, we don't do that here. Our funeral home director is in charge of that. All right, so we have no rules at all. So under that scenario that we can't make any decisions about what goes in the cemetery, somebody that owns a lot from 50, 60 years ago could just go out there with the shovel and start digging and do their own private burial. Now, I don't think that's the case. We have the right to make reasonable regulations and make regulations over how the cemetery is maintained and dealt with. You know, a lot of these lots are, we don't know whose name they're in, a lot of them, and so we just leave them alone, and we cut the lots for the most part. When they bought those lots, they were supposed to be cutting them. There's not, some of these lots are not perpetual care, and they're getting perpetual care. So we're trying to slowly address some of this. I mean, you know, how deep do you bury a coffin? I mean, these are all things that we certainly have the right to regulate.
I mean, just like you're talking about how deep they bury them, you can bury people in your backyard. You can't stop by them. You can bury anybody you want in your backyard, anytime, any day, and nobody can do anything about it. Cemetery plots just something created. Cemeteries. That's why most of them was in people's backyards when they started them. So, I mean, you, like I said, you touching on something that you need to explain this a little better to me, because some of these things I don't think you knew. I don't know where you got these rules from, whatever. I mean, just like you have to remove the flowers in 5 days. Okay, what are you gonna do? Penalize them? What are you gonna do in 5 days? I mean, I just read some of these rules, some of them just don't make any sense to me. Some of the flowers last maybe 2 weeks on somebody's grave site. And you gotta remove them in 5 days. Okay, we're gonna have a flower police, go out there and check the graves after every funeral. I mean, I don't know, I think you need to clean this up or pull it back and give us some more information on what you're doing, what you're adding, what you're not adding. I mean, I just, not sure, I haven't read all of it. I don't know if anybody else has, that's up to them. But I just know you're dealing with private property and you have the right to bury anybody you want anywhere. So I don't know whether the cemetery, just something was created. And the barrels was created the same way. I mean, you know, they have to have it in a cast iron, have to eat pots in it. Ain't no such laws as that. You wrap it in a blanket and bury them. I mean, there's nothing you can do with stuff like that. You put some kind of clamps on something, to me, that you're dealing with something really personal to the people burying somebody on their private property in a cemetery. So, not totally against this, but I just think this needs to be clarified, a lot of it to me. That's all I got to say.
Councilman Tisdale?
Yeah, if I understood you correctly, Mr. Abad, there really aren't a whole lot of ordinances, if there are any ordinances, dealing with burial in a public cemetery right now.
Not in Biloxi.
Okay. And I recall, and this was probably 4 or 5 years ago, a lady, perhaps 2 over the years, addressed the council and said, if my mother wants to be buried in Biloxi, she's not in good health, there are no more plots available in Biloxi. Now, I don't know if that's true, and I'm not sure of the cemetery situation or space situation in Ward 7, but here on the peninsula, that's about it. I don't know if Southern Memorial, I don't know if there are any other private cemeteries besides Southern Memorial. They may be in the city, but if you want to be buried in the city of Biloxi, it sounds like it's impossible for that to occur unless you're cremated, and there's a, I can't remember what you call those.
Remains.
What he said, yes, aren't places for urns, but so I think we got to start somewhere. I think this is a good start. It puts something in place, and just as any ordinances, we may find it necessary to tweak it as issues come up, but I think it's a good start, quite honestly. That concludes my comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Tisdale. Councilwoman Newman?
Can we add in their amendment, having a rule against RV parks, RVs parking there, tents, barbecuing, whatever, on any cemetery in the city of Biloxi?
Yeah, as a property owner and the city owning that property, we wouldn't allow that. What happens at Southern Memorial, we control that because it's our property, just like any city property. So we could add that, but I don't think that would be happening. We wouldn't see any of those sort of.
Let's just go ahead and put it, any cemetery in Biloxi, regardless if it's public or private, and just be done with that, because there should not be any disrespectful partying, get-togethers in a cemetery regardless. So I think we should add that in there.
Add it to just any cemetery in the city of Biloxi.
Any cemetery.
Thank you, Councilwoman Newman. I think when I heard Councilman Tisdale, he said this is a good start. There's some concerns by Councilwoman Newman and some concerns by Councilman Lawrence. Did you want to proffer a motion?
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion that we table this subject to call and ask you, Peter, to kind of list what you're actually doing, highlight the things that you think are extremely important, and let us look at all that, and then we can all bring it back whenever everybody's ready with it, and bring it back to the table and make an adjustment and do it all at one time. So I like
I'll
to.
second.
So.
I've got a motion to table subject to call by Councilman Lawrence, seconded by Councilman Glavin. Mr. Lawrence, you've had some discussion. May I? Councilman Glavin?
You finished, George?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, just as George said, I mean, I think we're hearing some details. Sounds like it needs to be more clarity to it. It may be adding a piece here and there, but I'd like to hear a little bit more comprehensive plan and more specifics than before I'm comfortable in just saying, let's do this citywide or anywhere.
Councilman Guines?
No comment on them. I believe that we need to go ahead and clean it up. Just clean it up all at one time. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Councilman Barrett?
Is there, I mean, I know we're doing this just because there's not any rules in place at this point, but is there a specific incident or incidents that caused us to look at this? Or had there been issues? I mean, I know that we had the issue that Dixie's talking about, people that have family there complaining about what's happened the last 2 years at cruising going on there. But outside of that, is there incidents, or is this just something like we've done on a lot of the other ordinances, just going through and cleaning them up?
Yeah, there's no real, nothing has come up. The reason, in my opinion, we needed to have some ground rules for uniformity is because we are now getting ready to add 54 sites. And I would ask if we table this, to table adding these sites on, because like George said, hey, this is for sale. I don't want somebody buying these lots and then maybe they want to put 8 cremains in them, or they want to do whatever they want to do. I mean, we want to be able to control what goes on in the cemetery. So if we're going to table this today, I think we should table the acceptance of the plat.
Are we talking about the mausoleum that?
This doesn't have anything to do with the mausoleum.
Which item are you referring?
That would be 5S, Mr. President.
Okay.
Thank you, Councilman.
And then my second question is, do we have the right to tell someone that they can't do, I mean, I know there's certain laws that people can't do things on their property, but do we have the right to legally tell someone, hey, you can't have a party on your property if it's a cemetery?
That's a private cemetery you're talking about?
Yeah, someone who owns yeah.
Yeah, I'd want to look into that a little bit.
Okay.
Before we
All
just
right.
add that.
All right, that's all I have.
All right, so I have a motion to table, subject to call, seconded by Kenny Glavin. We'll address S as we get to it. Any further discussion on the motion to table? There being none, I call for the question. All in favor of tabling the ordinance? Motion carries unanimously. The ordinance is tabled, subject to call. This will bring us to resolution B.
Resolution to grant final subdivision replat for properties presently identified as 1535 and 1539 Collins Street.
Got a motion by Councilwoman Newman. Got a second by Paul Tisdale. Ms. Newman? Councilman Tisdale?
It's pretty self-explanatory. I have no comment.
Council? All in favor? Motion carries unanimously. We'll move to resolution, we'll move to the consent agenda, excuse me. D has been removed. Was it?
Last month, it says. It was removed again? Okay, I'm sorry.
D was removed, correct?
I'm sorry.
Okay, thank you. That's okay. All right, we'll move to the consent agenda. I've got a motion by George Lawrence.
Second.
Second by Paul Tisdale. Mr. Lawrence?
The first one we do, Peter said we'll put up S table, subject to call.
I've got a motion to table
I'll second.
consent agenda item S, subject to call. Do I have a second?
Second.
Got a second by Felix Guines. Is there any discussion, Mr. Lawrence, on tabling subject item S, subject to
No,
call?
I'm doing it at the request of the attorney. To coincide with the other one, I think it's a good thing to do both of them.
Thank you, sir. Councilman Guines?
Same thing.
Is there any discussion on the board? Call for the question. All in favor of tabling subject S, or item S, subject to call? Motion carries unanimously. Any other discussion on any other items on the consent agenda? Councilman Lawrence?
Yeah, on K, they said we accepted insurance money and put it in the forfeiture money. What insurance you collecting to do that?
Peter, on K?
That's K.
Okay, he's a drug dealer.
Chief?
That was Warren Paving. When they were paving the parking lot, they ran into one of our vehicles. So that's insurance money for the cost of the vehicle.
Okay. And I guess it's, T has something to do with the same thing, Warren Paving, we swapping material, I've never heard of that one before, exactly what we doing there? Transfer of material.
Mr. Rhodey, if you would state your name and your title for the record for me.
It's open.
Walter Rhodes, City of Biloxi Infrastructure Program Manager. The city purchased risers to adjust manholes on those two streets, Raynor and Raynor and Division Street. We were going to make the adjustments in-house with our Public Works team. When Warren Paving won the annual asphalt 2020 bid, it was decided it would be best for them to use those risers and make the adjustments themselves so that the pavement would be smooth on those two roads and perfectly level with the finished grade.
Walter, is any of those on Forest Avenue or those side streets? None of those?
No, sir, just these two streets. So we'll be reimbursed by the FEMA program for what we purchased for the invoice price. Warren is going to use those to adjust, well, they did use them to adjust the manholes on Division and Raynor.
So as a result of deobligating the last part of the final surface, the last 2 inches, so we can move faster. And I think we've done Cobbett and done Raynor and waiting on striping when weather allows. And then we've got Forest and some of the side streets where the last 2 inches are going. And I think that'll be done. That'll be the end of final surface in the North project.
Well, has that anything to do with H? On H, you have surplus.
On H, I believe that should be taken off the agenda because it's no longer surplus. Yeah, 1 second, please.
Yeah, do we have to declare those surplus, declaring those pieces of equipment surplus? It sounds like in order to let Warren Paving.
No, we don't have to declare them surplus. It doesn't match up with the.
Either doing by sealed bid, you said, but you're dealing with the risers again. This is H.
H.
H is where we're going to declare surplus, and then we went ahead and did the transfer. H is no longer valid.
No, H should have been removed, I think.
Yeah. We discussed it with Mike.
We can remove that?
I think Christie got that.
Okay. H should be removed from the agenda.
I'll make that, I'll propose that amendment to remove item H.
I'll second it.
Got a motion by Paul Tisdale to remove item H. I have a second by Felix Skynes. Discussion on the motion to remove?
Yeah, no, it's just based on what the attorney said. Attorney Abide, item H is no longer needed on the agenda. We don't have to declare it surplus.
You guys were huddled up. I didn't hear what Mr. Bide said, so the issue is self-resolved.
Thankfully, Mr. Abide is here.
Okay.
Surplus resolution. It's extra, it should be removed.
All right, all in favor of Councilman Tisdale's motion to remove item H, signal with the raise of your hand. Motion carries unanimously. H has been removed from the consent agenda. Mr. Lawrence?
That's enough.
That was enough?
That's enough.
All right. Councilman Tisdale, do you have any further consent agenda items?
Not a thing, no, sir.
Councilwoman Newman? Councilman Glavin?
Yeah, I have a question. If Director Levitard can come up here on the drainage issue on Waters View. I see the detail in all this stuff. My concern is this: what are we repairing? The emergency repairs. Where is that water flow going towards?
So that emergency repair was done. It's actually already complete. When the Ixlip subdivision was building their lots and tied into their sewer, when they tore out a section of the concrete road. Well, when they did that, we found out one of the existing storm drain boxes was leaking, and The entire under the road was just caved in, washed out. So that's what this emergency repair was to fix all of that, backfill the road back and all that stuff.
Okay, so when it was repaired, that allows the water, the drainage to go where?
Well,
Or is
we
this
didn't
sewer or is this water?
We didn't change the drainage. We fixed a leak in the drainage box. Really, the repair was putting back all of the fill material underneath the road
Okay.
that had eroded away because the leak in the storm drain box.
Okay, so, I'm trying to follow you here. So I understand we've had problems in that area for quite a long time. So prior to it being fixed, where could the water go? I mean, it
Well,
just went wherever it went?
It just went wherever it went. That's
So
right.
now that we fixed it, the flow of the water
Should stay in the pipe now.
and the pipe eventually goes under the road and over to the
To that
other
pipe.
side of
That's
waters?
correct.
All right, so that brings me to the issue that we got a permit for the drainage that I'm assuming this water is going toward.
Correct.
And now there's more water going into that ditch that has overgrown trees falling in it, and it needs to be cleared. So is there any emergency process? I know we've asked the county for assistance on this. Can we escalate that to let them know that, hey, prior to our repairs, the water probably wasn't flowing as fast. Now it's going to go into that area and potentially cause some issues on the other side of Watersview?
We can definitely put in another request to the
All right.
county for that.
I would ask,
Okay.
request that we do that and let them know the potential severity of that.
Okay,
All right.
absolutely.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Director Labata.
That's it.
Councilman Glines?
Yeah, I'm good with everything, thank you.
I'm sorry?
I'm good, good.
Councilman Barrett? All right, well, this will bring us to well, we'll need a motion, or we'll need a call.
Call for the question.
Call for the question on the consent agenda that has been amended twice. All in favor? Motion carries unanimously. The consent agenda has been adopted. Are there any items anybody objects to individually?
None.
There being none, we'll move to code enforcement hearings.
Very left.
Mr. Creel? Well, last time he didn't have the pictures, this time he doesn't have himself.
Get that bread.
My dad jokes are dying today,
These are all the ones we carried over that we couldn't see last week.
right?
I don't sing.
You want to can I make a motion to address the routine agenda out of turn?
He's coming.
There he is. He's here.
I'm sorry, I held out as long as I could. Item A, Dante and Patricia Davis, 374 Cruces Street. This property is still in violation.
Is there anybody here to speak on behalf of Dante and Patricia Davis or 374 Cruces Street? There being none, this hearing is closed.
Item B, John and Edith Garcia, 402 Clay Street. This property is still in violation.
Is there anybody here to speak on behalf of John and Edith Garcia or 402 Clay Street? There being none, this hearing is closed.
Item C, Ralph and Patricia Jane Jones, 343 Forest Avenue. This property is still in violation.
Is there anybody here to speak on behalf of Ralph and Patricia Jane Jones or 343 Forest Avenue? There being none, this hearing is closed.
Item D, WTA Incorporated, 216 Rodenberg Avenue. This property is still in violation.
Director Creel, WTA Incorporated, is that a local business?
They don't live here. It's actually a couple that owns this property. The lady's name is Ms. Wheel, and they have this property. It's really in bad shape. There was a homeless camp in there, and it's overgrown from the street. You can't really see inside the property, but it needs some serious attention.
Is there anybody here to speak on behalf of WTA Incorporated or 216 Rodenberg Avenue? There being none, this hearing is closed. We'll move on to the routine agenda. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Got a motion by Paul Tisdale, second by Felix Guines. Councilman Tisdale, discussion?
I have nothing, but Ms. Newman might want to make a motion, I think.
Yes,
Mr. Guines, do you mind if I acknowledge Councilwoman Newman out of turn?
Thank you.
Councilwoman Newman?
Yes, Mr. Jason Wilson contacted me and Mr. Tisdale asking for us to table the demolition of 1612 Lewis Avenue for 2 weeks.
Is there any discussion on this?
I'll second it.
There's a second by Councilman Lawrence on Ms. Newman's motion to table for 2 weeks. Discussion? Councilman Tisdale?
Oh, I have no discussion. I thought we were voting. I'm into the next phase.
I think George had
Go ahead.
George, you
Second.
raised your hand.
Did you have discussion?
I second it.
Oh.
Okay. Well, I guess there's no discussion then. All in favor? Motion carries unanimously. On the routine agenda, there's 2 structures to be demolished. We tabled subject to call, I think, the 1612 Lewis Avenue, correct?
That was B.
Or, yeah, item B. Do we have any discussion on the remainder of the routine agenda, Councilman Guines?
None.
Councilman Lawrence?
Don't shake your head. You no money? No 1, 3, 4, 5 money?
Nothing new.
Nothing new. You have anything working?
We're doing work, but they haven't submitted enough to submit to FEMA.
But we're still in good shape. We're still in good shape. We're not behind, we're up.
We're 60 days up.
We're 6 days, okay. Thank you.
What he said.
Councilman Barrett? I'll call for the question. All in favor of the routine agenda, please raise your hand. Motion carries unanimously. Do I have a motion to recess? Got a motion to recess by George Lawrence. Do I have a second. Second by Paul Tisdale. All in favor of recess, raise. The vote is unanimously, including the vote of Mayor Fofo Gillich.
Happy birthday, Keith.